Well, hello there and welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. You'll be happy to know that political pork is alive and well in Idaho. Well, actually, if you favor good government and if you favor your hard-earned money not being squandered, as taxpayers' money often is, maybe that's not such good news. But you've heard us talk about the pork report and actually the wasteful spending report that is done by the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I've got details coming up on 4 examples of how pork is alive and well here in Idaho. We'll get to them in just a moment.
Press club or bias all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
dark money is influencing policy in our state.
Well, that's not how this works.
Once again, welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. Twice a week, I have the opportunity to sit down and go over some of the issues that are relevant to Idaho citizens and voters and people who are paying attention. And government waste is one of those things. In fact, I'm going to mention this right now just so you have a chance to write it down. If you would like to know more, in fact, sign up for a copy of the pork report. You can just simply go to idahofreedom.org/24pork. And I'll mention this again at the end of the program today. But let's talk about some of that wasteful spending. And we're going to start with one that maybe this doesn't apply to everybody, but it's definitely one that should be on your radar screen. This is talking about spending by the Liquor Division for appropriations for fiscal year 25. And in particular, it's spending to remodel a liquor store. Now, I don't know how aware you are of how it works here in the state of Idaho, but constitutionally, the state has a monopoly on the sale of liquor. Now, ostensibly, that's to, discourage the use of liquor, but at the same time, it's to keep control of a substance that, as Prohibition showed us, people will get whether it's legal or not. So better to make it legal, but the state wants to profit off it as far as getting the taxes that would be associated with it. Okay, that much we understand. But let's talk about why is it that they would need $166,300 to relocate or remodel a single store. This is what House Bill 694 would appropriate. This would be the 6th year in a row that the Liquor Division has requested an appropriation to remodel liquor stores. Now, why is that a wasteful expense? Well, it's because state-owned liquor stores really don't need to compete with nicer private stores since they have a monopoly on the market. Now, I mean, you could say, well, it's just that we just want to make it a good experience for those patrons, but remember who's paying for this. This is not being done by the actual customers so much as it's being done by the taxpayers. In other words, maybe it's something the state shouldn't be in the business of in the first place. Understand, that's a constitutional issue. That's something that would have to be fixed constitutionally. But in the meantime, remodeling a state liquor store, considering they have no competition, that's probably not the best idea. But that's not the worst example you're going to hear of government waste. This one may be the worst, but it's probably well intended. The Ada County Highway District, the ACHD, needed a new logo. Now again, who's in competition with them? Well, we want to have a good brand, but their logo cost more than $160,000 with money for stickers, envelopes, hats, neckties, M&Ms, and more. I know that's a lot of interesting swag, but here's the explanation behind it. This is from boisedev.com. First of all, here's the logo. Okay, well, it's nice. It's a great logo for $177,713 in costs. I don't know about you, but as a taxpayer, I'd probably be okay if there was just a simple, lettering that said this is Ada County Highway District, and that would be that. I don't really need my government things to have a brand like they're actually in competition. But look at the breakdown of the other swag that came along with that spending. $9,000 on 643 new trucker hats at $14 a piece, $4,900 on stickers, also 450 branded lip balms, 450 packets of M&Ms. I mean, granted, if you want like M&Ms, I guess that's a steal. $855 on 450 sugar cookies. Also $780 on a set of 10 OGO full zip jackets. Now I get that, but don't these employees of the Ada County Highway District have a clothing allowance to get, clothing with the department logo on it? Just wondering. $180 for 3 logo neckties at $60 each, $15 for a sweater for the agency's Elf on a Shelf, plus t-shirts, pens, pins, buttons, and notepads. Now, again, I get it. We want the employees to be happy, but for crying out loud. The Ada County Highway District said a significant portion of the promo merchandise was for the agency's roughly 450 employees. Now, this is what spokesperson Rachel Bjornstead said. She says, when we launched the new brand, we celebrated with a launch week. And why wouldn't you? You got a new brand, except it's the taxpayers that are actually paying for this. So this included bags with branded materials to help employees replace items like t-shirts, hats, and water bottles with updated branding. It also included some more fun items like keychains, stickers, and M&Ms to help build excitement and encourage employees to embrace the new brand. I don't wish for them to be miserable at their work, but remembering whose money it really is, and I'm sorry, I'm the wet blanket here landing right on their party, but it's the taxpayers' money. Isn't there a responsibility to be fiscally responsible and to spend that money carefully and not? Why are they getting a new brand in the first place? Is it that people couldn't understand? I don't know. What does it mean? The Ada County Highway District. I don't even know what that means. I need something. Oh, a nice interpretive, shape and colors. Yes, now I get it. No. They have a function to perform. Let them perform that function as efficiently as possible. And yes, let's not, leave their employees in poverty. It just seems wasteful. I think it definitely fits the definition of pork. As does the Idaho Launch Program, which is the subject of House Bill 741, seeking to add a little more money to the launch program. Now, if you're not familiar with this came along in 2023. It was House Bill 24 that was passed, and the launch grant program was made to help promote certain careers and not promote other careers for students that were just leaving high school. So as the Idaho Freedom Foundation pointed out back in March of this year, House Bill 741 is related to Senate Bill 1390, and both of those bills would expand the definition of in-demand careers as it applies to the cronyistic redistributive launch grant program created by House Bill 24 last year in 2023. In our analysis of House Bill 24, we warned that the program will not be neutral in terms of its recipients. Those who pursue certain careers will receive priority. So in this way, government is picking winners and losers, which is not a function of a free market. That's a managed market, no matter how you try to spin it. Predicting, or more realistically, guessing what careers will have the greatest demand in the future. I know it's jobs, but again, where does the money come from? It comes from the taxpayers. So House Bill 741 would amend Section 72-1204 of Idaho Code to expand the potential for cronyism inherent in the subjective definition of what they call in-demand careers, as it applies to the cronyistic redistributive launch grant program. The bill would also add a related definition for what it calls eligible coursework. So the current definition of in-demand careers requires that the career paths subsidized through the launch grant program must, quote, have a high number of openings in Idaho or an expected high rate of growth in Idaho. The law gives sole discretion to the Workforce Development Council to make an annual determination of what careers fall under this definition. So that's the current definition. How about the new one? Well, the new one is going to change this. And see, the existing definition at least required the Workforce Development Council to use some somewhat objective criteria in determining what careers are in demand. But the new definition actually scraps all pretense of objectivity, effectively giving the council carte blanche to create a matrix of careers and training programs based on whatever factors it chooses to prioritize. Now, I don't want to sound cynical, but what are the odds that the factors that they will use to choose which ones to prioritize will coincide with the political donors, in other words, the connected, moneyed corporations that are making the highest political donations? I mean, am I wrong? Does that just go against human nature? Because that sounds like what human nature would actually do, is they will reward the people who help to keep them in power. That's what we mean by cronyism. And again, it's a waste of money because it's taxpayer money. All right, one last one. We've talked a little bit about the victory of Big City Coffee against Boise State University. Well, this is a headline from Boise Dev. from just actually a week or so ago. Boise State has paid $1 million and counting to defend the big city lawsuit. Now, that's just to defend it. These are just the legal costs. This does not count the damages that were awarded. But let's look at how those costs stack up and remember what this lawsuit was about. Boise State has spent nearly $1 million defending a lawsuit brought against the school and some of its employees by Big City Coffee. The lawsuit has racked up $989,458.55 in costs to the school through early August, according to a report provided by the school under the Idaho's Public Records Act. The suit, which Big City Coffee and owner Sarah Fendley won in a jury trial earlier this year, was pared down by a judge, removing Boise State and several employees from the initial $10 million claim. But it's still a substantial amount. And again, that $1 million that we're talking about here, this is not the damages. This is just the legal fees. And it has to do with the free speech of this particular business owner being abridged on the part of Boise State University, something you can't do as a state-funded institution. Now, Boise State noted to Boise Dev in a statement that the costs were part of its statutory obligation to defend the university and its employees against the lawsuit. Be that as it may, they want to keep that can going down the road. They're going to keep kicking the ball here. The university respectfully disagrees with the verdict and intends to appeal. I'm going to add at whose cost, at whose expense? As the evidence clearly demonstrates that the First Amendment rights of all parties were honored. Well, the jury did not find it that way, but they're going to try to appeal, hopefully see if they can find a sympathetic legal authority to say, okay, yeah, we'll let you off the hook. Boise State spokesperson Lauren Griswold said it's currently working with the Idaho State Risk Management Office to determine how any judgments in the case would be paid if Boise State is not successful in its appeals. Let me guess. Does it rhyme with taxpayers? Because that seems to be the ones who get left holding the bag when this kind of thing happens. So these are just 4 examples of some of the government waste, the pork that is alive and well in Idaho, even though you will hear a lot of talk about fiscal responsibility and how we take care of our, budgets and we don't spend any more than we absolutely have to. Look, it may seem like minor things, but when you look at the scope of all the different things that Idaho government is involved in, it adds up very quickly. And if you would like a much more detailed look, here's what I'd recommend. I would recommend that, first of all, you check out what the Idaho Freedom Foundation has put together for you in terms of their pork report. Go to idahofreedom.org/24pork. It's that simple. idahofreedom.org/24pork. You can get a copy of this. You can check it out for yourself. Maybe you'll agree. Maybe you won't. But I bet you at least hang onto your wallet just a little bit tighter once you realize what's going on with the taxpayers' money. I'm Brian Hyde, and this is Nowhere to Hide.
Press Club or bias all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy.